With development pressures, climate change and declining space for connectivity across the Greater Sydney Basin and beyond, there is an increasing need for restorationists, plant producers, planners and landscape architects to collaborate on ensuring natives of the correct provenance and genetics are conserved as well as planted within urban spaces.
I will pass over to Martin to talk about another initiative about how we try and pull together our seed sector and get some momentum so that we get something which is more cohesive. Thanks, Martin.
I'm here today to speak about the Healthy Seeds project. The Healthy Seeds project has probably evolved from a whole range of discussions and things like the seed survey. The Healthy Seeds project has been funded by the New South Wales Environmental Trust through ANPC. The aim is to look at the current barriers and future opportunities. The National Seed Survey that Paul has just outlined identifies many of the native seed supply issues across Australia, and as we've seen from Paul's outline, there's a whole range of issues of good, bad, indifferent, a lot of things that we thought worked and obviously don't work, a lot of things that we assumed happened in a certain way don't happen the way we think they happen, and there is a whole lot of issues that have, and probably more questions than we have answers at the moment. That it really underpins the work of the Healthy Seeds project. But it also is based on the assumption that we are going to have the vision and the opportunities to intend to maintain and extend the vegetation restoration across New South Wales into the future. And that if we're going to do that seed, if we're going to do more restoration, more extension of re-veg and direct seeding and things on a grander scale, then it assumes that we're going to need seed. And you'd be surprised the number of times that I've been told by both funding bodies, institutions, and even federal ministers, Martin, we're not interested in seed. We want plants in the ground. And, and that is a fundamentally important problem. We may laugh at it, but it's a serious issue when there is such a disconnect between the need to get more plants and not wanting to invest in the key ingredient is seed. Just a quick overview. This sort of figure shows us that the Healthy Seeds program is looking to all the aspects of the seed supply chain in New South Wales, from seed sourcing, seed collection, seed processing, seed storage, seed supply, and also the vegetation projects and all the interactions between all those aspects. Okay, so what does Healthy Seeds aim to deliver? It will hopefully publish and promote the findings of the seed survey that Paul has outlined. We're hoping to have that on the websites of ANPC and associated organisations very shortly. It is also aiming to update the National Florabank seed collection guidelines, and they will also help underpin Sarah, and it was the standards there, and we have had these discussions for many years, and it's a long overlooked update. It also aims to audit the seed supply chain across New South Wales, so validate the issues that have been raised, are the assumptions that made valid across the state, and identify in each of the NRM regions across the state what are the barriers and opportunities to seed supply at the industry level. And the long-term product will be produce a roadmap that best addresses the issues of seed supply and suggests improvements to seed supply quality and quantity across New South Wales. Healthy Seeds is being formed and has just been formed, a consortium that includes the Environmental Trust of New South Wales, which includes other agencies, SOS, and Biodiversity Conservation Trust, ANPC, Arbor, CIRA, CSIRO, Royal Botanic Gardens, the Australian Seedbank Partnership, Greening Australia, and LLS and regional NRM bodies, seed banks, collectors, mining industry, universities and other reference groups, and quite a number of people here today that will be consulted, and you all. We want to hear input from you all today and further contact. The results, as we said, and as Paul said, they are there. They will appear in the APC journal and associated websites, and probably more extension of those findings will be later published as well and draw out a few more issues. We hope there will be some limited hard copy forms available as well down the track. The Florabank seed collection guidelines, as I've said, they have been a valuable resource over the years, and a number of people have either been involved firsthand with the training aspects or development or implementation of the guidelines over the years. They have been a benchmark requirement for seed collection and licensing in New South Wales and other states as well. So it is important that in the update that we get some of the things that are now outdated and require technical review, that they are looked at. And there is a subcommittee being formed, and there is a person that will be coordinating that rewrite. That includes the original partners, CSIRO, and some of the other groups, GA and others, are involved in that reference, that group and a reference panel. And there will be review for the various aspects of the updates along the way. If people would like to be involved in that technical review or support writing an update, make yourselves known to me. That would be good. And that is hopeful that it will be republished within the 18 months, the time of the program. Okay, the seed supply audit within New South Wales, we've just been forming the consortium and making contact with people about contacting all the LLS and NRM regions in New South Wales to look at what the seed supply is, look at how funding works, the supply and demand equation, the quantity and quality of seed and the species that are available, what staffing and training coordination issues there are, whether there's databases in the regions for supplying the seed, who's keeping track of that, who are the suppliers, what are the collection sources, and the roles of seed production areas that Paul outlined, licensing, permitting issues, and also from the regions and people like yourselves, feedback on what are the key barriers in your region and issues that you may have, and we'll be discussing more of those this afternoon, and also opportunities to address some of those seed supply issues. The draft roadmap, which will come from this program in 18 months, is hoping to put forward accumulating all that knowledge that we gain and discussions with people, identifying what some of those issues are and what are some models that could be trialled in different areas to improve the situation, and to identify effective and efficient interventions in the regions or at different scales to help. and to try and just look at best practice issues that can be used, documented and understood to improve the situation across New South Wales. And that is really all going to come back to finding out from people like yourselves, people involved in the industry, what are the issues, how can you see it being improved, and how are these things all going to fit together. So we'll be looking at, what are the wild harvest situations across New South Wales, where is that seed coming from. This is just a photographic example of where trees were being removed for power line construction, so that all the trees were being removed, but the opportunity was taken to capture the seed as tree removal. And we're just having a discussion this morning, a massive veg clearance in Western New South Wales where it appears to have been approved, but no one has taken the opportunity to capture the seed as those trees are being removed. And those opportunities seem to be expanding, and it just seems an incredible waste when we've got these shortage or perceived issues with seed supply. There is also selective wild harvest of individual trees and different techniques being used. Very inefficient in terms of supply when you've got people going out and getting a few trees here or a bit of seed here, a bit of seed there. It's good that that seed can be captured and the genetics can be captured to get into things like seed production, but it's a very inefficient way of getting seed and creating a whole lot of issues, and the issues that Paul raised in terms of distance travel to get the seed. Things like more intensive vacuum harvesting and getting more seed more efficiently and scaling up and looking at technologies to get things to happen. Well, that again, greater efficiency in getting seed from areas, but it's probably only suitable for seed production areas rather than wild harvest, because the last thing you want is to be taking all the seed from an area of wild harvest. Looking at seed production, this is one of the big seed production areas for shrubs, and again, really efficient ways of producing seed. You can combine the genetics from a large area, getting those together. They're costly to put in and dependent on longer term projects and demand and funding. But if we're really serious about the vision of what's possible, this is the sort of approach we need to take across the state. And then it makes the other technologies like vacuum harvesting, machine harvesting and processing, direct seeding and extensive restoration and re-veg technically possible. Obviously you need things like, and the infrastructure like machinery for cleaning and processing, that needs to be available. If you're going to up the efficiencies, if you're going to turn it into an industry that can do things, you need a lot of equipment, you need a lot of skills and training, and there are technologies there that can be adapted to move it away from sort of a hand and screen job to something more efficient. And not to forget issues like anyone who doesn't understand the notion of biodiversity needs to do seed collection, because there is so many things dependent on seed. Things that you don't like as well, and we look at work health and safety issues with seed mite and seed mite attacks when you're dealing with large quantities of seed. But when you start harvesting seed and you realise how many insects, mites, other things are dependent on that seed, and the more seed that we take from the wild, you're not just precluding future opportunities for germination, you're also taking feed and system support from a whole range of other species, most of which we probably don't even understand at the moment. But if we've got seed from seed production areas, then those issues are not as critical. You also need infrastructure, and I know there's people sitting here that would love to have the shedding and opportunities for having areas. You need infrastructure. Once you start producing seed at scale, and you need to be able to store it, and you need to be able to manage large quantities of seed efficiently and store them in a way that they are going to be useful down the track. And if we're going to have a vision for the future at producing areas like this that have been direct seeded and changing the trajectory of our vegetation across New South Wales, we need change. We can't keep on doing things the way we've been doing it for the last 30 or 40 years. I'm finding it frustrating that even in institutions, training institutions, universities, etc., we're still talking about tree planting and restoration at that sort of scale. Really, industry and technology and the field has moved on. We've got to have a much bigger vision of what's possible, but support it. And that's, what we need to hear from you all today and other people across the state. And the key thing, seed is only as good as the records that you have. Without good databases, knowing, and from the data that Paul has shown, seed is coming from much further than we have realised. But if we don't have the data of where that's coming from, then the value of that seed and where it can be used may be limited. And it makes it impossible to check where things have gone wrong or why they've gone wrong down the track. Okay, so today, in a sense, this forum is, this afternoon, a subset of trying to find out more information, mainly on the Sydney Basin, that we hope to find out across the state. And we want to hear from you and understand what your issues are, and to either identify, support or refute some of the findings that Paul has come up with. What are the issues that we need to deal with? How can they be addressed? And we need to hear from you so that we can ultimately help you. My email and mobile's there, and I've got cards out the front if people want them, and we want to hear from you. So thank you again for Planning and Industry and Environmental Trust in New South Wales for supporting this project, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you.